6 months. 6 months of pure hell at the hands of a client who seemed to have crawled out of a horror movie. A ridiculously wealthy guy, with a watch more expensive than my car, who turned me into a slave to his insane demands and impossible requests. He wanted a crystal chandelier that mimicked a waterfall, but without getting anyone wet, and a swimming pool with astronomically accurate constellations. You won't believe what this guy put me through. But the best part? I planned the perfect revenge, using technology to my advantage. Get ready for the story of how I turned his hellish mansion into a problem paradise for Mr. Armando Pereira. I worked as an interior designer, a job that, in theory, should be creative and rewarding. In practice, it was dealing with demanding, indecisive, and in some cases, truly infernal clients. But none compared to Mr. Armando Pereira. Armando was a rich man, sporting a watch that probably cost more than my car, and had a habit of interrupting every 5 seconds with unnecessary comments about the paint color, the type of wood, the height of the baseboards. He'd call me at any time of day or night, sending pictures of 5-star hotel bathrooms with the message, something like this, but with more gold. The project was the complete renovation of his mansion in Angra dos Reis, a nightmare that stretched for 6 months. 6 months of incessant calls, emails with Pinterest photo attachments he considered inspiration, and endless meetings where he changed his mind every 10 minutes. He made me redo entire projects, always with new absurd demands. He wanted a crystal chandelier that mimicked a waterfall, but didn't drip water and had to be discreet, even though it was the focal point of the room. The pool? It needed an underwater lighting system that projected constellations onto the bottom, constellations that, according to him, needed to be astronomically correct. I felt trapped, like I was in a horror movie where the monster was a man in an Armani suit with a gold addiction and mood swings. My team was exhausted. The deadline was approaching, and my bank accounts were getting increasingly thinner. I was about to collapse. The last straw happened during the final inspection. Armando inspected everything with a magnifying glass, finding non-existent flaws, pointing out microscopic imperfections. He ran his hand along the wall, found a speck of dust, and yelled, "This is unfinished. I want my money back." At that moment, something inside me broke. The rage, contained for months, exploded. I didn't react at the time, but instead I planned my revenge. My plan was meticulous, worked out to the smallest detail. First, I needed an ally. My friend, electrical engineer João, was essential. João was a tech genius, a master of automation, systems, and most importantly, a big fan of suspense movies. Together, we developed a custom automation system for Armando's mansion. Nothing obvious, nothing a regular inspector would detect, a network of sensors, microchips, and custom codes. The first stage of my revenge was subtle. Little things. The lights flickered randomly, the temperature changed suddenly, the music played at an ear-splitting volume without warning. Armando started to think he was going crazy. The second stage was more elaborate. We programmed the system to create paranormal events. Shadows moved in the corners, objects moved on their own, and whispers were heard at night. Armando started sleeping with the lights on and hiring a medium. The third stage was the icing on the cake. We programmed the system to execute random and harmless commands, but extremely irritating ones. The kitchen faucet turned on and off every 5 minutes. The bathtub filled itself. The shower changed temperature incessantly. Armando started losing sleep, getting nervous, and distrusting everyone around him. He thought he was the victim of a curse. He called priests, rabbis, even a shaman. Nothing worked. I watched it all from afar through hidden cameras and laughed internally. His suffering was my sweet revenge. I was having more fun than ever. The fourth stage involved a more complex lighting system. The pool lighting was reprogrammed to project distorted and disturbing images on the bottom, like sea monsters and ghostly faces. The fifth stage was a bit more sophisticated. I altered the voice commands of the sound system. When Armando said words like calm, peace, or tranquility, the system responded with deafening screams and horror movie soundtracks. Armando's situation worsened. He began to show signs of paranoia and mental exhaustion. His wife pressured him to sell the mansion, but he refused, believing the house was cursed. The sixth stage was the last and cruelest. With Joanne's help, we programmed the system to simulate a fire, a controlled fire that would produce a lot of smoke and a strong smell of burning, but without causing any real damage. Armando, in a panic, called the firefighters, who arrived and found only a little smoke. The fire never happened, but the seed of paranoia had already been planted. He was completely undone. The damage to his mental health was irreparable. He sold the mansion for a price far below market value, fleeing to a remote place, leaving no trace. I was never discovered. My work was impeccable, my revenge perfect. I never worked for such an unbearable client again. But I confess, the memory of Armando's despair still brings a smile to my face. So, Reddit, was I the jerk? I don't think so. He put me through hell. For 6 months, I just returned the favor with interest, and it was delicious. Justice sometimes needs to be served creatively. And believe me, mine was a work of art. And now you want to know more about the crystal chandelier that mimics a waterfall. Because I have stories to tell, Armando never bothered me again. In fact, I never saw him again. But I know he remembers me, and that's what matters. My revenge was silent but effective, and I confess very satisfying. The mansion renovation was a success, although not for Armando. For me, it was an absolute success. The project was completed, the payment received, and my reputation maintained. What did I learn from all this? That I would never again underestimate the power of a well-planned revenge, and that, no matter how unbearable a client is, the solution is not always the most obvious. Sometimes, the best answer is a masterpiece of engineering, technology, and a touch of sarcasm. And yes, the crystal chandelier that mimics a waterfall was one of the most incredible pieces I've ever created. But that's a story for another day. So tell me, dear Redditors, have you ever had a hellish client? Share your stories. I want to hear everything. After all, revenge is a dish best served cold, and I'm hungry for more ice-cold revenge stories. And if you have any revenge suggestions for the next annoying client, I'm listening. And finally, the moral of the story. Never, ever underestimate the power of a good plan and an electrical engineer friend. It can save your sanity and give you the most delicious revenge of your life. Guys, I'm completely speechless. I think we need a minute to process this. This story. OMG. Believe it or not, this actually happened. And let me tell you, reality surpassed fiction this time, and I almost had a heart attack. So if you're still here, you know the drill. Drop a huge like to help me bring you more shocking stories like this one. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos, because we've got a ton of crazy stuff coming. Until next time, and may God protect us from real-life stories like this.